Yo, what's going on, guys? Mush back at it with another video, and I'm a little bit late on covering this news with all the coverage of Black Friday and whatnot. I'm a little bit behind on the news cycle, but gotta cover one of the best games of 2025, seemingly being leaked for PC. I imagine that we get an announcement next week at the Game Awards, and hopefully the game will be out in January. Quick turnaround for it, but Death Stranding 2 on the beach has been rated on the ESRB, and I find this rather interesting for a couple of reasons. We'll talk all about that, and also another game has been dated for February. February is absolutely loaded for new game releases, and it's one that I am very excited for. Doesn't have a ton of attention and buzz around it, but Romeo is a Dead Man is a game I think you guys should have on your radar. It's the level of wackiness and over-the-top action that I'm super into. We'll talk that at the end of this video, and you know I love that $49.99 price point over a $70 price point. I don't expect it to be a 50-hour long game. I expect it to be a fast-paced, all-killer, no filler type of game, but again, we'll talk that at the end of this video. So first of all, Death Stranding 2 on the beach has been rated for PC. The ESRB has rated the unannounced PC version of Death Stranding 2 on the beach. A couple of interesting notes on this. Death Stranding 1 came out back in the fall of 2019, and it took about 6-7 months before that game to come out on PC. Now, Death Stranding 1, the PlayStation version, was published by Sony. The PC version, on the other hand, was published by 505 Games. Death Stranding 2, on the other hand, with this ratings, it is noted that the PC version is being published by Sony Interactive Entertainment this time around, which I think reinforces that idea that Sony is still very much invested into that PC market. I see that sometimes we get these sales numbers coming out and people are like, oh, why is Sony porting these games to PC? Well, first of all, nobody is expecting games like Spider-Man 2 to sell as well as it did on PlayStation. Whenever you have these single-player-oriented games and they are released on a delay, they are going to do far lesser than what they would have done otherwise. The novelty of PlayStation games on PC has also worn out a little bit, and Spider-Man 2 being used as an example, which I have seen recently with some data being put out about that. Spider-Man 2 was like the worst PC port of all time, or in the upper echelon of the worst PC ports of all time. Like, again, these are disingenuous arguments being made. Oh my god, the game only sold this amount of units. And again, these are all digital sales. They're porting the game, and obviously that costs a little bit of money. I get that. And there is the argument of, oh, you're devaluing the PlayStation platform, where I really don't think at this point you are doing that all that much, because at the end of the day, the people that are buying these games are still just the nerds. Most people that are buying a PlayStation 5, and this has been proven over and over again, are people playing NBA, COD, Madden, games like that. And these exclusives, while I appreciate them, and I think in a world where there were competing consoles, it would be one thing about having these exclusives and having them be such a big deal. I think those days are kind of past us. I think they're still gonna have these games as exclusives for 6 months to a year on PlayStation, but they're gonna be porting them to PC. And Death Stranding 2 is another game. Now it's being published by Sony as well, and it's coming out probably, let's say it comes out January or February, which, by the way, if it comes out in February, that's another massive game that'll be coming out on PC in that time frame. February of next year is just stacked, and we'll talk Romeo as a Dead Man in a second, but the Video Game Awards last year also had the announcement of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth on PC, and that ended up coming out, was it end of January, I believe. So I could totally see that time frame as well. Generally speaking, when these PC ports are announced, they get announced, and within 6 weeks, they're out. It's not like there's this lengthy buildup, although there have been instances like Uncharted Legacy of Thieves Collection and Last of Us Part 1 where those took a while for them to come out on PC. But with Death Stranding 2, because it's a lone PC announcement, I think it'll be out in like 6 weeks. And let me just say, Death Stranding 2 is absolutely awesome. It is my 1B. I have Game of the Year for this year as of this point, and I haven't put that much thought into it, but my top 2 games are Expedition 33 and Death Stranding 2. Death Stranding 2, it doesn't need me to glaze it. It's a Hideo Kojima game. Most people know how good it is, although Death Stranding 1 was one of those games that was incredibly divisive. I absolutely loved it, and I thought it was a great game. I think Death Stranding 2 is an even better game. I think narratively, it's more cohesive and easy to follow, and I get that some people didn't like the bigger emphasis on combat, but I thought it was fantastic. I still think they had a healthy level of, okay, it's FedEx delivery simulator, but at the same time, they had a good bit of combat that added more engaging gameplay. And obviously, from a technical standpoint, the game is phenomenal in that regard as well. Death Stranding 1 was a pretty good PC version. I would imagine Death Stranding 2 is going to be fairly well optimized as well. The reality is you do have to beat Death Stranding 1. I would highly recommend you to beat Death Stranding 1 before you play Death Stranding 2. It's a direct sequel, and it's super narrative heavy, and, you know, just play through Death Stranding 1. I love that game. Give it a shot, and, you know, again, there's a lot of talk about it being light on the combat, it being FedEx delivery simulator, and narratively, sometimes it does get a little bit hard to follow, and if nothing else, you could watch a story recap of Death Stranding 1 and jump right into Death Stranding 2. I personally would, play through Death Stranding 1, because I think that game is great. Death Stranding 2 also is a sizable undertaking in the sense that this is a game, you guys, that could be 80 to 100 hours if you're looking to do everything. If you rush through the main story, alright, you could probably beat it in, what, 35, 40 hours? But there's so much optional content to this game and so much additional stuff that you can do, and the game is just phenomenal. Oh, and by the way, soundtrack is absolutely stellar. The song Nightmares is just the best track in this game, in my opinion, but there's a lot of good tracks in this game. It's just a great game, and excited for it to come to PC. I really hope it does well, but this is one of those games I could easily see it coming out on PC, peaking at like 30,000 concurrent players, and people being like, oh my god, it's over. Well, I really just view that as it's a delayed release. It's a direct sequel that you do need to play DS1, and DS1 alone was a pretty divisive game. And while we're on that topic, let's actually pull up the concurrent player count for Death Stranding 1, because I don't think it's going to be as high as Death Stranding 1. Let's pull up the charts. Death Stranding 1 peaked at 22,000 all-time concurrent players, so I could see this peaking at a lesser concurrent player count, although Death Stranding 2 I did feel like also had more universal acclaim, so we'll see how that turns out, but I don't see the game doing like 80,000 or 100,000 concurrent players. I just don't see it being at that level, but we'll see. The game is awesome, and I recommend everybody to check it out. Moving on from that, another game that I'm very excited for, dated for February 11th, is Romeo is a Dead Man. You guys, this is a game coming from Suda51, who has done some absolutely off-the-wall zany games. I'm not saying all of his games have been great, but you've got games like Shadows of the Dam that were awesome in my opinion. Killer is Dead. I've mentioned that game a few times, and this looks like a fast-paced action game. They're describing it as an ultra-violent action game. I love the visual aesthetic to the game. Take control of the protagonist, Romeo Stargazer, in a third-person single-player action adventure split into various chapters. His story is both unpredictable and littered with intense battles interspersed with side missions to suit the player's pace. Romeo switches between swords and guns to fight, wipe out waves of enemies that stand in your path to give birth to a new kind of bloody action, and take down the fearsome space-time criminals that await. Absorb the blood of your enemies to unleash Romeo's special attack, Bloody Summer, capable of turning any situation around. Romeo's various weapons can be strengthened and altered as the story moves forward as he takes on even stronger enemies. A story that transcends space-time as well. I'm not going to go too in-depth on the story, but it is also going to be priced at $49.99, which I totally expect this game not to be a 50 to 60 hour long game, and no way in hell. I expect it to be more in line with Mafia: The Old Country, but guess what? Mafia: The Old Country, that's a game that 2K has said, overachieved from their expectations commercially, so I think as long as the expectations are reasonable, this is a game that can do really well. And Romeo is a Dead Man, to me, gives me totally the vibe of a game that I could see pop off on social media. Now, the thing is, it's coming out on February 11th, right around the same time as some other big games. Neo 3 is coming out right around the same time, and February is just loaded with a lot of big titles, but it being a cheaper game, it having a lot of over-the-top action, I just think a game like this is going to gain traction on social media because of its insanity, and I think, a Suda51 game in 2025 can do pretty well, relatively speaking. A Suda51 game is never going to be like 200,000 concurrent players or even 100,000 concurrent players probably, but can it do fairly well relatively? Yeah, I absolutely think so. So hopefully that'll be the case. That's out February 11th, $49.99. Keep that on your radar as well. But that'll do it for me. Again, Death Stranding 2 seemingly leaked for PC. I would imagine an announcement next week at the Game Awards. Hopefully we'll get a date sometime in January. Makes a lot of sense to me. And potentially next week we might see the announcement of the return of Prince of Persia: Sands of Time remake. So January filling up with a lot of big titles as well. Legend of Heroes Heroes coming out, Code Vein 2, Dynasty Warriors Origins getting an expansion as well. Exciting stuff ahead. And Romeo is a Dead Man will be coming out February 11th at $49.99. Have that game on your radar as well. That's going to do it for me. Let me know all of your thoughts in the comment section down below. As always, thanks for watching, you guys, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Peace out. Hey, what's going on, guys? Mush here again. Hope you enjoyed the video. As you guys might know, YouTube's notification system is sometimes a little bit wonky, even if you're subscribed to the channel. Maybe you're not abundantly aware that I uploaded a video. To remedy that situation, make sure you hit the bell notification button. This way, whenever I upload a new video, and I try to upload as consistently as possible, you will be notified directly of the upload, and you can watch it as soon as it goes live. I would really appreciate it if you guys hit that button so you can stay up to date with all of the content I'm posting. But as always, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.